of where council was when we were observing it from outside.
It is not the level of politics that is expected.
The very thing we were not happy about.
The political desk.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the political desk.
The political desk on Breakfast in the Desert.
Now we will get back to the issue of the African Union turning 60, but just before we do that, last week the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Natural Resources visited resettlement farms to, among others, assess productivity at resettlement farms, ascertain whether there's sort of any support offered by government in terms of financing and training, and the role played by resettlement farmers to create jobs and boost food self-sufficiency as part of efforts to alleviate poverty. Now, just to give us feedback on how their visit went, we are joined by one of the committee members, that is Vincent Mareka, this morning to give us a little bit of some information regarding their visit. Honorable Mareka, good morning.
Good morning, John.
Thank you so much for making some time for us this morning, Honorable. And I guess just to get started, perhaps just explain to us which resettlement farms and areas around the country were visited by the Standing Committee and why.
We would have loved to visit all the farms countrywide, but because of the limited time to our disposal, we only make it for now to farms in the Ochozojupa area and then Omaeke.
All right. And as you visited all these farms, in terms of the objectives that you had, perhaps just talk to us on which particular farms in those two areas showed productivity, which ones are struggling. Just take us through that extensively.
We have visited in Ochozojupa 5 farms, then 12 units of beneficiaries, and then Omaeke, we visited 3 farms, also with 6 beneficiaries. Now, let me say 85% of these farms are really doing well, except probably 2 to 3 out of the total that I indicated.
And perhaps just speak to us in depth in terms of what the issues are, what the struggles are that these particular farms are facing. Are there factors like rainfall, like weather, being played on the productivity of these farms? What are the actual issues? What have you picked up in terms of the productivity on these farms?
It was one of the main factors was the dry spell over Namibia. It's always resulting in drought. But, some farmers lose a lot of livestock and are still trying to recover full stock. And then the other one is the scarcity of water, also in some areas. And then also absenteeism from farms. I think 1 or 2 incidents of farmers are not present at their farm. We came across 2 units that have been allocated to cooperatives. One is really progressing well, even to the extent of producing beef and even crops. This is now in the area of Sume Potavi, Farm Sumas. And then I having now the other cooperative that is in Omaeke. That does not, the Kashimbi cooperative is not functional. No, people are not maybe understanding each other. And then the other one is also the absence of adequate funding, because Kumasana Center Resettlement Program is only benefiting a repayable amount of 200,000 once off, and from there the farmers must then see to it as to how they can finance their farming activities. Now, some farmers who are these who have been employed formally, but assets like houses that can be used for collateral, so could at least make it. And then the other effect is also a lack of training and mentorship. And then one biggest problem is also when the main beneficiary dies, and the families are always struggling, fight with the next person to take over and so forth. Yeah.
And then, Honorable, perhaps just also speak to us on the positive things that you saw, while visiting these resettlement farms. Of course, the issues of conflict, the issues of support in terms of financial support, which you will go back to. What were the positive sides? Are we seeing, some farms being self-sufficient? Are they making enough food to supply surrounding communities? What does that sort of situation look like?
Yeah, John, honestly speaking, we thought that to get to this farming fraternity of resettlement, and then mainly says that it does not work, so that we'll get farms down the ground. But 85 to 90% of these farms are really functional. To my surprise, there was a farm in the Ochiwarongo, Juba area, Okurusu farm. We came across Mr. Tamasa that is heavily in crop production. That's sunflower, 8 hectares, maize, 9 hectares. Even busy producing seeds for NAMSIP program to further even distribute these seeds that's on this to other farmers. Even giving training, supplying some of these maize and other stuff to places like Accra. And then the other one is again a cooperative that is also at Sumas, which is in Juba area. That is also doing very well. Beef and even crop production. The only problem of the one of Sumas is that the challenge of market production, but then sometimes fresh produce does not get anywhere to be sold, and then pricing also.
No, go ahead, Honorable.
Another two, also in Mareka, also doing well. What is the German name? That food. They have planted enough fresh produce like tomatoes and onion, but when was later on forced out to supply now to the local farms and even the Khababa's old age home. So the farms are doing well. Honestly speaking, we thought that the resettlement program does not work, but we have got some good farmers.
So you're quite impressed.
Exactly.
All right. And then perhaps just to go back to the issue of support and funding, just from what you understand, from what you've assessed, is the government involved in assisting these farms with any kind of support? Do they need more support from the government perhaps? What is happening in that regard?
Yeah, no, government is really playing its part, more especially on infrastructure, and then also the provision of water, and its infrastructure as well, with some boreholes, rehabilitating of existing boreholes that are not functional, and also the drilling of new boreholes, and then also material like water tanks and troughs and so forth. But I think government also still needs to do more. It's not enough because, as I've said, it's only a once-off amount of 200,000, and after repayment, then the facility ends there. One would love to see if a farmer is qualified to repay the full amount of 200,000, then maybe then again be able to have access to an upgrade that may be a little bigger amount, more than maybe 200,000. And the other one is also the fact that farmers on the 99 years leasing program. Now, why don't we think of the issuing of title deeds to these farms, as an example, so that the farmers can then use the land as collateral to access funds to any financial institution.
Indeed. And just before we get to more recommendations that you might have, Honorable Mareka, are there plans to visit more resettlement farms, throughout the year, or is this just going to happen now?
No, definitely. We would love to reach out to more farms, Kara, Arta, Chikoto, Erongo, etc. And then also not only resettlement farms, but also the other part of farmers who acquire land through the Agri-Bank Finance Program.
And then, just as we let you go, Honorable Mareka, the recommendations that have come out of these visits, have you put any on the table yet? What are these recommendations looking like?
Yeah, like I said, maybe more financial support through Agri-Bank. To upgrade the facility, looking also at the title deeds, training and mentorship, and then the market for produce. You go to, let's say, a shop like ShopRite or Pick n Pay. Most of the fresh produce that we are consuming as Namibians, 80% is apparently coming from elsewhere. So, if we can have a better encouragement on market, so that our local producers' products also get to this market, the shop shelves, I think it will be better. And then maybe also looking at the issue of AMDA. AMDA was created to look at this the issue of market to our farmers. And then definitely also succession of inheritance. It's also one area that is a bit of a difficulty, because if the main beneficiary dies, then it's either the spouse, and in the existence of a will, I just feel having a couple. The mother and the child sometimes does not understand each other. So those are the few of more recommendations still to be considered that one can thought of now.
Have you looked into the issue of water scarcity, Honorable?
Yeah, we have looked at the issue of water scarcity. There are some farmers that have got that own good aquifers, but there are areas, more especially Omaheke, as an example, where farmers are struggling with underground water. So one does not know what should happen there. So the government has tried to help to drill more water holes. But that's also an area of concern.
Indeed. Well, Honorable, we do thank you so much for making some time for us this morning and just giving us some input as to how the visits went. Of course, we'll be waiting for more recommendations from the committee, but also for more visits to get a feel of what is happening on the ground throughout the country. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, John.
Indeed. Vincent Mareka there. He is, a member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Natural Resources. They visited resettlement farms in the Omaheke regions, that is, Otjozondjupa and Omaheke regions, to, among others, assess productivity of resettlement farms. Like I said earlier, certain whether there is any support offered by government in terms of financing and training, and the role played by the resettlement farmers to create jobs and boost food self-sufficiency as part of the efforts to alleviate poverty. And that was quite an interesting assessment from Honorable Mareka there. Now, the time on the clock is 6:57. That does conclude our political desk for this morning. Producers for this segment John Colin Namene and Calvin Chiringa, with executive producer being Tiri Masawi. Do not forget, there is that question of the day. What are your thoughts on the effectiveness of the African Union 60 years after its independence? What are your thoughts on the effectiveness of the African Union 60 years after its inception? You can, of course, hold on to that question and to our number on 061-279-644, 061-279-644. That is the number you can call in a little bit later in the show when we do open our call lines.
The political desk.
Yeah, I think this was disappointing year for Parliament in the sense that only a handful of bills were actually passed.
The first mistake that one will make is that you think you can satisfy all expectations, which we can't.
What are the macroeconomic policies that are in place? What are the access to finance?
And that's what I was telling the other people. I was presiding over very most important people, and they recognize what a presiding over.
We are slowly retreating into some episodes of where council was when we were observing it from outside.
It is not the level of politics that is expected.
The very thing that we're not happy about.
The political desk.
Thank you very much for inviting me to the political desk.
The political desk.